Chapter 61. After hearing the commotion around her, Bianca realized that she wasn't hallucinating. She tried to remain calm but her lips trembled. "Are you, Earl?" Even though Earl was in front of her, she was afraid that it was all a hallucination. Everything felt unreal and complicated. This encounter was a pleasant surprise, yet it was frightening. On that dark night back then, Earl bravely dove into the river and risked his life to save hers. After both of them went their separate ways, she thought that they would never meet again because the gap between them was insurmountable. Bianca and Earl belonged to different worlds. They might have turned out to be completely different from the past if they met again a few decades later. However, at that moment, she was deeply moved. The person she was searching for had been beside her all along. Meanwhile, Samuel, Ronnie, Isaac, Luca, Miranda, Queenie, Anna, and the other students were stunned by the look on Bianca's face. In fact, Belle, who was about to criticize her, was also flabbergasted. All of them thought that the expressions that Earl and Bianca had on their faces looked ridiculous. After all, the former was aloof and quiet while the other was bright and cheery. They didn't look like they interacted well with one another. However, it was interesting that fate brought them together. Just when Bianca thought she was hallucinating, Earl gave her a warm smile. "We meet again, Phoebes. How have you been?" Indeed, they met again. Earl was really there. Many times, Bianca had wondered if she would ever meet the boy who left a lasting impression on her in high school again. She thought that he might have changed a lot the next time she saw him. Yet, she didn't expect them to meet again in such an unlikely place. Moreover, Earl was wearing a basketball uniform from the School of Finance. Everything seemed outrageous, but Bianca was unable to control her emotions. Since she was still in disbelief, she started stammering. "Yes, we meet again. How did you?" Then, she pointed at Earl's outfit. It seemed she was questioning how he appeared at Alnugo University in a basketball uniform. Though their conversation was short, the students around them were agitated. Samuel, Ronnie, the other students from their shared dorm room, and those who liked Bianca were in disbelief at the sight. They didn't expect Bianca to have searched for Earl, and for her to be so agitated the moment she saw him. This made others curious about their past relationship. Meanwhile, Ronnie wondered, have I misjudged the situation? Were they really classmates? It seems that they're quite close. On the other hand, Samuel cursed to himself. Earl used to be a wallflower like me, but after Bianca talked to him, his social status was elevated. It seemed that he would be the only outsider left in the future. The girls in the shared dorm room were also stunned. It was really strange how Bianca started talking to an unappealing boy like Earl. As such, everyone started talking all at once. Yet, the discussion didn't affect Earl and Bianca at all. Chapter 62. The lights at the basketball court were bright, but both Bianca and Earl seemed to be in their own little world. Earl replied slowly, "I'm representing the School of Finance in the basketball match today too." After hearing that, Bianca paused. It seemed that she was confused about the relationship between Earl and the School of Finance at Alnugo University. This didn't match up with what she believed in the past. No, it was impossible. Just then, Samuel interrupted the conversation. "You didn't know, Bianca. Earl is representing our School of Finance in this match. Although Alnugo University isn't as good as the top two universities in our country, it isn't surprising that he entered our school because he's the top scholar in the state." "Are you really studying at Alnugo University? Are you really the top scholar in the state?" Uncertainty filled Bianca's voice. She appeared to be very shocked about the news. Meanwhile, Earl smiled helplessly. "Yes, I was admitted into Alnugo University and was the top scholar in the state." In truth, he didn't want to mention his achievements because it was a burden to him. Earl wanted to forget about the past so he could move forward with ease. Yet, since Samuel had already mentioned it, he didn't hide the truth any longer. After that, Bianca covered her mouth in shock and confusion. Samuel and Luca leaned in, nodding as they agreed with Earl's words. Immediately, many complicated emotions overwhelmed Bianca as she recalled how quickly she left Perthter City. Had she missed out on many impressive feats that Earl had achieved in their hometown as a result? She couldn't help but remember what she wrote to him before they graduated. She'd written, "You'll soar to greater heights and make use of your potential. I believe in your talent. There are many pathways for you to succeed in life, even if you don't get into a university. When we meet again many years later, I hope we can proudly greet each other with our many achievements in tow." Bianca thought that she would be apart from Earl, and she didn't expect him to appear in front of her again so soon. He was dazzling and skillful. She wondered, what other marvelous achievements of his did I miss? Curiosity filled her heart. However, she knew that he needed a lot of hard work to change from a bad student to a top scholar. Undoubtedly, he had made a successful comeback. Despite his humble beginnings, Earl would achieve great things. He might not be recognized for his potential at first, but he eventually succeeded. Bianca was overwhelmed with complicated emotions. Though she felt happy that they met again, and that Earl was attending the same university as her, she felt a little upset. Was she that unimportant to him? Why didn't he look for her? Those thoughts made her feel worse. So, she bit her lip and asked sadly, "Since you're attending Alnugo University, why didn't you look for me?" Bianca didn't believe that Earl was unaware of her enrollment in the School of Finance. After all, she was rather popular there. As such, it seemed that he intentionally avoided her. Meanwhile, Earl looked a little awkward and said, "I thought that it wasn't an appropriate time for us to meet." Chapter 63. Since Bianca was very clever, she accurately ascertained Earl's worries. Yet, she felt even more frustrated and upset. "Is that your actual reason?" Earl nodded awkwardly. As Bianca looked at him, she felt many emotions rushing through her. Meanwhile, their conversation stirred quite a commotion among the students. All of them were shocked. Goodness, they weren't mistaken, right? Everyone looked at Bianca's expression and listened to her words. It seemed that Earl and Bianca weren't just normal classmates. Their relationship was more complicated than that. Though no one knew what had occurred between them, their conversation left much to the imagination. Samuel and the others chided Earl for being unloyal and decided to interrogate him about his relationship with Bianca later on. Meanwhile, Joshua, Ronnie, and the girls in the shared dorm room were upset. They were wondering why Bianca knew Earl. After all, even though they were from the same university, their social status was miles apart. However, judging by the way Bianca treated Earl, it seemed that their relationship wasn't so simple. It was unimaginable to those present. This was humiliating to the girls of the shared dorm room. They felt awkward and furious, but couldn't say anything in retort. On the other hand, after looking a little confused, Luca appeared to be thinking deeply. Once again, Earl's demeanor was contrary to his expectations. Suddenly, he realized that Earl was a mysterious and unique individual. Yet, the most frustrated person in the room happened to be Belle. At first, she wanted to talk to Earl about what occurred the previous day. But she was interrupted by Bianca instead. It seemed that Bianca and Earl had an interesting relationship. This was not what she expected at all. As such, she felt anger and resentment toward Bianca. On the other hand, Flynn was also staring at Bianca and Earl furiously. Ever since he met Bianca, he had always wanted to woo her. Besides, he felt that other men apart from him couldn't get close to her. However, the aloof Bianca said such shocking things to the strange Earl. Thus, Flynn was extremely angry and jealous. Yet, when he noticed Earl's basketball uniform, Flynn smirked coldly. It would be easier to carry out his plan because the latter was from the basketball team at the School of Finance. Once the match started, Flynn could humiliate Earl in front of everyone. Then, Earl would realize that he wasn't good enough to compete for Bianca just because they used to be classmates. Flynn believed that fools would only remain fools and that Earl wouldn't be able to compete with him. Soon after, the whistle was blown and an intense match began. Bianca was pulled away by her friends, leaving Earl standing alone. After she left, the tension in the air grew. Ronnie and her friends regarded Earl strangely. After all, Bianca rarely treated others as kindly as she just treated Earl. Chapter 64. Samuel couldn't help but move closer to Earl. He wanted to find out about the seemingly romantic past that Bianca and Earl shared. It was obvious that both of them weren't normal friends like Earl had initially claimed. Samuel believed that their relationship wasn't that simple. In fact, he suspected that Bianca and Earl had a secret relationship unknown to outsiders. Apart from Samuel, everyone else also perked up their ears curiously. All of them were curious as to why Bianca seemed so close to Earl. After the basketball match that day, the relationship between Earl and Bianca remained a hot topic in Alnugo University's online forums. In the first place, Bianca was a popular person. Besides, Earl and her didn't seem to be related to one another at all. Still, they had a mysterious dynamic. This attracted much discussion among the students. Belle observed Earl and Bianca while they conversed. Once Bianca walked away, she pouted unhappily, glared at Earl, then arrogantly returned to her seat. Before the basketball match started, the coach of the School of Finance, Jordan, and the coach from the School of Music, Oliver Newsham, were exchanging greetings. Both of them had known each other for a long time and had previously interacted within the professional basketball industry. Jordan crossed his arms and looked at the team from the School of Music. He smiled and told Oliver, "It seems that your team this year isn't that strong." Oliver shook his head and pointed at Flynn. "That might not be the case. Look at this tall kid. He is very skillful, so your team should be careful." Then, Jordan replied confidently, "Our team has an ace. Do you see that boy with the impressive shooting skills? He's called Joshua. I intend to nurture him so that he can become a professional basketball player. He is the most talented student that I've ever taught, and he's practically the strongest player from the School of Finance. Just wait and see." After hearing that, Oliver frowned slightly and replied calmly, "He's not bad." Yet, he looked a little disdainful. The competition started once the whistle was blown. The students sitting in the stands began cheering for their respective teams while the cheerleaders added to the lively atmosphere of the competition. Meanwhile, the basketball players hustled, and the air was thick with tension. Bianca watched the competition from the sidelines. She kept looking at Earl and wondering why he hadn't entered the court yet. In the meantime, Earl stood at the side of the court and observed the game. There were 4 quarters in the game, each match lasted for 10 minutes. The main scorers in the School of Finance were Isaac and Joshua while the School of Music relied on Flynn, who had the added advantage of height and strength. When the first round ended, the School of Music scored 27 points and the School of Finance scored 20 points. Even though the players from the School of Finance were trying their best to score points, the strategies they used weren't consistent and relied mostly on luck. On the other hand, the School of Music was led by Flynn, who controlled the rhythm of the match in an orderly manner. Jordan instructed Earl to get some water for his teammates during the break. After that, he approached Joshua and told him to calm down so that he could perform well as usual. As Joshua sipped the drink that Queenie passed him, he felt rather anxious. Thus, once the whistle was blown and the second quarter had begun, he tried to score points for his team because he eagerly wanted to maintain his reputation. Alas, Flynn kept targeting him. As such, both players started to aggressively score against each other. Chapter 65. Flynn was well built, and his defenses were strong. Under constant pressure, Joshua kept missing his shots and made a lot of mistakes in his passes. This caused the School of Finance to fall into a stalemate. The School of Music seized the opportunity to gain the upper hand in the game. Flynn intercepted the ball from Joshua and scored a goal that shocked everyone. Soon after, there was a 13-point difference between the two faculties, causing the audience to react strongly. The female students from the School of Music kept screaming and cheering Flynn on. Luna was also cheering for Flynn. Turning around, she told Belle smugly, "Look how impressive Flynn is. Even if your boyfriend were to participate in this match, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. Anyway, your boyfriend isn't even participating in this round. He's passing water to everyone else." Her words irritated Belle. Though Flynn was very impressive, Luna shouldn't have criticized Earl. Meanwhile, when Queenie saw Joshua's poor performance on court, her expression turned gloomy. Though she kept cheering for him, the audience around her laughed. They said, "Stop yelling. He's hardly making his shots. It's all his fault that the School of Finance lost so many points." Queenie was so angry that she replied, "Why are you blaming Joshua? If you were the ones playing instead, you wouldn't be able to score a single point." That said, she felt embarrassed since the difference between the two teams was so big. The second quarter finally ended. The School of Music scored 35 points while the School of Finance scored 5 points. The School of Finance was behind the opposing team by 17 points. Although Joshua scored quite a few points, he was ineffective and wasted a lot of energy. Isaac was worried that Joshua wouldn't be able to deal with it himself, so he decided to seize the opportunity and go on the attack in the second half. After a short break, the third quarter started. Once Isaac intercepted the ball, he started attacking the other team furiously. He scored more points than Joshua, giving hope to the School of Finance again. Yet, Zainfier and Flynn from the rival team cooperated with greater precision. Since Isaac seemed to be gaining the upper hand, they heightened their defenses around him. After receiving the ball, Flynn leapt into the air and dunked the ball above Isaac. Not only did this move make the latter seem utterly pathetic, but it also dealt a blow to the basketball players in the School of Finance. "Oh my God, is that a riding dunk? That's impressive. We're doomed. The School of Finance won't be able to win. This is terrible. The other team is annihilating ours." Those from the School of Finance yelled agonizingly while the female students from the School of Music screamed in excitement. All of them thought that Flynn was amazing. "The School of Finance has a bunch of lousy players," Flynn declared condescendingly. Then, he thumped his own chest arrogantly. The riding dunk was a rare move in a competition like this, which made Flynn's decision to do so seem all the more impressive. As a result, Joshua's confidence crumbled altogether. While those from the School of Finance were upset, the students from the School of Music were joyful. In fact, the cheerleaders from the School of Finance couldn't help but praise Flynn. "He's so handsome. I want him as my boyfriend. Dream on. Do you think you're as pretty as Bianca?" Since the cheerleaders from the School of Finance supported their opponent, the faculty's basketball players went into a meltdown. After 3 matches, the scores were 52 points versus 75 points. The gap between both teams seemed very big, even if the School of Music didn't score any points in the last round. The School of Finance wouldn't be able to make a comeback. As such, the School of Finance's basketball team was doomed to fail. After coming to terms with what would soon be an embarrassing defeat, everyone from the School of Finance sighed dejectedly. Chapter 66. The students from the School of Finance were utterly disappointed. A few of them even started leaving because they didn't want to witness the humiliating defeat. In fact, Jordan looked the most upset. At first, he had high hopes for Joshua. Yet, the latter had performed badly in this match. This was an utter humiliation. Thus, Jordan decided to throw the last quarter and remove the starting players from the court. He prepared to discipline them later on. Just then, Oliver approached him with a smile. "Hey, are you asking your main players to leave now?" Jordan looked very upset and pointedly ignored Oliver, who added, "I thought you said there was an ace player on your team. So, is this the extent of his skills?" Evidently, Jordan was being mocked by Oliver, which disgusted him greatly. Yet, he knew that the members of his team were worse than those on Oliver's team. In the end, Jordan replied, "Don't be too smug. The real ace on our team is sitting on the bench. You'd better have all your star players step up their game." However, he didn't have another ace. This was just a ploy to tire out the members of the School of Music. Alas, Oliver didn't believe Jordan's words because he had seen through his tricks. Once the basketball team from the School of Finance surrendered, Flynn and the others could wash up and rest. After realizing the situations of both teams, the audience began leaving the place. Many female students came to see handsome men, so there was no point in watching the match anymore. Luna looked at her watch and stood up. She asked Belle, "Now that Flynn has left, the match won't be interesting anymore. My boyfriend from Granada has sent me a Swarovski brilliant necklace. Do you want to pick it up with me?" The remaining girls prepared to leave. Since Belle lost interest in the competition, she stood up and prepared to leave too. As she walked past Earl, she glared at him angrily. She thought, HMPH. What a country bumpkin. He always takes a passive approach to things. Soon after, half the audience had left. However, Bianca, who was part of the cheerleading team, stayed in her seat. She looked at Earl. It seemed like she wanted to ask him why he didn't participate in the match. Jordan prepared to leave as well. Suddenly, Earl, who was sitting on the substitute bench, stood up and said, "Mr. Huntington, I want to compete in the match." Jordan was still furious. He looked at Earl disdainfully and asked, "Do you think you deserve to compete in this game? Why? Do you think you'll be able to catch up with the other team?" Earl replied calmly, "I think I could give it a try." Everyone around them almost burst into laughter. They felt that he was just being shameless. Jordan glared at Earl and said, "Are you still dreaming? If you win the competition, I'll ask you to be my mentor." Then, he tried to push the ladder away. However, since Earl was too tall, Jordan couldn't make him budge and almost fell instead. Suddenly, a nice scent wafted in the air. Bianca stood beside Earl and told Jordan, "Mr. Huntington, maybe you could let Earl give it a try. His basketball skills are admirable." Since Bianca was the campus belle of Alnugo University in her freshman year, Jordan knew who she was. As such, he gave a nod of agreement. Let him play. After all, they had lost the competition, so it didn't matter even if a weak teammate joined the game at that point. Chapter 67. After Jordan left, Bianca looked at Earl warmly and said, "Earl, I'm rooting for you." At that moment, determination filled Earl's heart. Recalling the contempt that Jordan showed him in the past, he made up his mind to regain his dignity. Besides, Bianca was cheering him on, so he couldn't disappoint her. Although Earl had confessed to Faye near the riverbank back then, Bianca had a holy presence in his heart. The whistle rang and barely anyone noticed that the fourth quarter had started. Both teams entered the court. Though their main players weren't around, they were still pretty capable. Inhaling deeply, Earl swiftly intercepted the basketball from his opponent and jumped in the air, dunking the ball with practiced ease. He started the game with an impressive slam dunk. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Was that a tomahawk dunk? All of them finally realized that the fourth quarter would be a little different. When Bianca saw the glint in Earl's eyes as he scored a goal, she couldn't help but cheer and wave the confetti in her hands even harder. The young man from her memories seemed to be alive again. Everything felt extremely real. Meanwhile, Ronnie and the others from the shared dorm room were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe that Earl knew how to do a tomahawk dunk. Besides, he looked very domineering while he made that move. Anna's eyes sparkled. She felt that she had witnessed a new side of Earl this time. On the other hand, Luca's eyes widened in disbelief. He thought that Earl had hidden his talents very well. Not only was he a great guitar player, but he could also play basketball. He was an all-rounder. The main players of the School of Music had already left to take a shower, but Oliver was still hanging around. He was drinking his water and leisurely waiting for the match to end. Obviously, he didn't believe Jordan's words about them having a hidden ace. But after seeing Earl score such a flashy goal, he almost spat out his water, his eyes widening in shock. He thought, does Jordan really have an ace on his team? How is that possible? However, Oliver didn't call for his main players just yet. After all, the quarter had just started. Perhaps, that was just a coincidence. Yes, it had to be a coincidence. Yet, Earl showed everyone the skills of a professional basketball player next. Once again, he wowed everyone with his capabilities. He made a long-range three-pointer. After receiving the ball, Earl threw the ball into the net from his position in midcourt. Next, he did a phantom skill. Once again, he did a tomahawk dunk. But, this time, it was even more impressive because he did the move above an opposing player. Then, Earl did a fast break dunk. He rotated his body and arms in a full circle before shooting into the net. Those who observed him guessed that Earl's mid-air reach was higher than 5 feet. His impressive performance made everyone enthusiastic again. Wow, is he a god? Chapter 68. The situation of the match had changed in just 1 minute. The gap between both teams shrank from 23 points to a mere 6 points. This sudden change was unbelievable. At that moment, Oliver was very agitated. He furiously cursed to himself, his voice trembling. As expected, Jordan didn't play by the rules. He thought that Joshua was the ace of that team. Unbeknownst to him, the real ace was actually Earl. Oliver stared at Earl, who displayed his extraordinary skills of quick steals, elegant dunks, and accurate three-pointers. The former noticed that there was a gap in capabilities between his team's substitute players and Earl, so he became fearful. He wondered, should I get my main players to enter the field again? Wait, calm down, there is still a difference in scores at the moment. However, Earl's performance stole the attention of many. Once again, he managed to snatch the ball from the other team and work with his teammates to score a goal. The audience cheered enthusiastically. Earl skillfully blocked his opponent's shot. Then, he leapt in the air, the basketball in his hand appearing to be very small comparatively. His agility was beyond shocking. He jumped so high that his head almost hit the net. He didn't just deflect the ball, he was practically grabbing the basketball from the backboard. Meanwhile, the player whose dunk he deflected looked bitter. He thought, what the heck? His jumping skills are very impressive. Why is he participating in a college competition? He should be playing professionally instead. Isn't he bullying us? Quick, you must stop him. On the other hand, Oliver broke into a cold sweat. He cursed Jordan internally. Is he really a freshman player? He's way more talented than a professional basketball player. As he stared at the decreasing point difference between the two teams, Oliver knew that if this continued, his team would be defeated. Yet, at that moment, the main players of the School of Music were humming to themselves in the gym showers. Since they thought that they would definitely win, they showered in peace. In fact, they had already started washing their basketball jerseys. However, a sudden news disrupted the peaceful atmosphere. What? We're almost at a tie. Flynn exclaimed. Yes, hurry up, or our faculty will soon lose, the person who broke the news said. Immediately, everyone panicked and wore the clothes that they had been washing. In fact, someone put on their underwear even before washing off the soap still on it. The water dripped from his clothes as he staggered forward. Once they reached the court, the players stared at the scoreboard in horror. The score was currently at 72-78 in the School of Music's favor. There were only 5 minutes left in the match. Earl practically bridged the gap in scores between the two teams in 5 minutes. Everyone looked at Oliver, who was staring at Earl's splendid performance in sheer terror. He had already forgotten about his main players. The image of Earl soaring through the air was the only thing that remained in his brain. Oliver was determined to recruit Earl into his team by all means. The latter was a talented sportsman. Just then, a strong desire overtook Oliver. Since he was passionate about recruiting talented basketball players into his team, Earl was like a brilliant treasure to him. Even though Earl was Jordan's ace, Oliver knew that he had to recruit Earl, no matter what. Everybody stared wide-eyed as Earl displayed his brilliant skills. Though 3 basketball players from the School of Music surrounded him, he did an amazing slam dunk, scoring a foul in the process. This made the audience erupt into earth-shattering cheers. Earl's performance was swift and extraordinary. His capabilities impressed everyone. Then, everyone started chanting, MVP, in unison. Their cheers were so loud that they shook the entire stadium. Chapter 69. Samuel and the others were stunned by Earl's skills. Meanwhile, the girls of the shared dorm room were so shocked that they didn't know what to say. Anna's eyes glinted strangely. On the other hand, Bianca was very excited. Whenever Earl scored a goal, she would feel unbelievably happy. At the same time, Flynn and his teammates were furious, so they requested a timeout before their main players entered the court again. Alas, it was too late. Even though the main players entered the game, they were unable to stop Earl. He was so powerful that he was almost invincible. When Flynn entered the court, he cursed at Earl, trying to distract the latter so that he could make use of the opportunity to make a comeback. However, Earl remained unfazed and continued scoring goals accurately and quickly. He blocked the opponents sharply and did his dunks smoothly. He became the center of attention in an instant. All his actions affected everyone's emotions. Even his opponents were so terrified that their legs turned weak in front of him. As such, though the main players were around, they couldn't do a thing against Earl's attacks. Meanwhile, Oliver sat by the court quietly and stared at Earl. The latter's performance amazed him greatly. He knew that Earl would become the rising star of his generation. While Earl was playing in the game, Jordan was scolding his team's basketball players in the break room. Suddenly, a student dashed into the room and announced that the School of Finance was about to win the competition. Jordan could hardly believe his ears and chided the student for spouting nonsense. Yet, a second student walked into the room and said, "The School of Finance is winning." Had someone altered their destiny? Jordan wasn't in the mood to continue scolding the basketball players and hurriedly arrived at the basketball court. He arrived just in time to witness Earl's splendid performance. His slam dunk was so powerful that the entire net shook. After that, Earl did a phantom steal and evaded his opponent's defense swiftly, got past the main players, and did an amazing slam dunk once more. There were 10 seconds left. The scores had changed to 88 points against 82 points. Upon seeing that, Jordan could hardly believe his eyes. In that last moment, Flynn tried to steal the ball but kept making mistakes. Earl swiftly appeared like a ghost and snatched the ball away, preparing to score another point. As Flynn was furious, he tried to choke Earl by the throat. It seemed that he didn't want the latter to score even if it meant strangling him. Everyone was terrified by the sight. Yet, Earl was very powerful. Not only was he unaffected by Flynn, but he also leapt into the air as Flynn clung to him. Once again, he scored a dunk. Flynn's weight didn't affect Earl's speed at all. When the ball entered the net, Flynn was thrown back by the impact and hit the rim hard. Although Flynn was in a lot of pain, he was still able to accuse Earl. "Foul, that's a foul, referee." Yet, the students and the referee knew the truth. How shameless. You were the one who committed a foul first. Besides, you did it on purpose. If Earl hadn't been strong enough, he would have been dragged down by you. You're nothing compared to Earl. The referee rolled his eyes at Flynn and ignored him. When the match ended, the School of Finance emerged victorious. After looking at the scores, Jordan couldn't believe his eyes. His team lost by 22 points when the main players were playing in the game. Chapter 70. The second Jordan left the court, his basketball team managed to win the game. He felt humiliated. At the same time, Joshua couldn't accept the results either. After he abandoned the game, the School of Finance team won. That was the greatest insult to him. So, he asked, "How could we have won? Is there something wrong with the scoring system?" His words lacked composure, and they made his girlfriend, Queenie, embarrassed. As such, the students from the School of Finance started throwing rotten bananas and water bottles onto his head. Meanwhile, Ellen was the angriest of them all. Not only did he lose the match, but he also suspected that he had injured his leg. It hurt him so badly that he decided to go to the school clinic to check it out. Simultaneously, he was filled with great loathing for Earl. Flynn swore that he would get his revenge one day. Conversely, Oliver wasn't upset by the defeat. He was instead excited. He immediately thought about how to recruit Earl to his team. Unexpectedly, the opportunity presented itself. Jordan was still trying to figure out how his team had won the game. After hearing what the students said, he finally understood that their win was due to Earl. Thus, he looked rather uncomfortable. "Did you really score all these goals?" Just then, Samuel and Luca rushed over to explain Earl's amazing performance earlier in great detail. Once he realized that Earl helped the team win, Jordan looked even more upset. Though he was extremely disgusted, he quickly regained his composure and patted Earl's shoulder. "That's great. Without my coaching, you wouldn't have been able to succeed. You have to thank me for that." The truth was that Jordan ordered Earl around instead of coaching him. How could he claim credit so shamelessly after that? It seemed that he had forgotten what he said earlier about making Earl his mentor if they won the competition. However, Earl smirked coldly. "Mr. Huntington, I remembered what you told me previously. You said that if I won the competition, you'd make me your mentor. Isn't that right?" After hearing that, Jordan was dumbfounded and inwardly cursed Earl for humiliating him. Didn't he want to stay on the team in the future? Yet, Earl wasn't bothered by Jordan's reaction. He continued pressing, "Didn't you say that, Mr. Huntington?" As such, Jordan could only deny it. What nonsense are you spouting? Why would I say that? If you can prove I said that, I'd do a handstand and lick someone's shoes. Everyone heard it. This was indeed what you said. Earl came prepared and took out his phone to show everyone the video that he recorded previously. Everyone could hear that conversation clearly. In particular, Jordan said that he would make Earl his mentor if he won the competition. With that, Earl waved his phone and asked, "Are you still going to deny it, Mr. Huntington? Why don't you do a handstand now?" Jordan was furious. He felt as if he had been stripped of his dignity. Though he wanted to defend himself further, the evidence was set in stone. At this moment, Oliver squeezed into the crowd. He looked cheerfully at Jordan and said, "Mr. Huntington, I heard everything clearly. As a coach, you should keep your promises. You don't have to make Earl your mentor because he's so young, but you'll have to fulfill your promise of doing a handstand and licking shoes. Who's willing to lend him some warm shoes? We can't upset his stomach by giving him a cold pair." After that, everyone started laughing.